Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this safe space session. This has been created to hold honest, reflective conversations around child sexual abuse and how early experiences of violence, silence, and neglect often shape patterns of harm later in life. Today, we are joined by Ms. Smita Bharti. Smita Bharti's first love has always been cinema, theatre, and stories. And when she's not thinking about gender, justice, or institutions, she's usually thinking about a scene, a character, or how a story could be told differently. She is the executive director at Sakshi, which is where we all work, a rights based organization that has championed gender equality since 1992. And for MAM, this work has never been just about laws or policies. It has always been about people and the stories they carry, often in silence. And I'm going to let her tell all of you a little bit more about herself than me just going on about it.
You're very kind, and thank you very much for hosting me. I've always been on the other side asking the questions, so it's really strange for me to be on this side and have all the questions asked. What do I say? Like you said, my first love is theater, my first love is writing. I like to say I'm a writer who became a social activist. That I think sums it all up.
And when you call yourself a writer, do you like writing fiction or is it all based on real life?
Well, most of my work is based on real life. Most of my work is based on experiences. It started with my own experiences. And I'm also a very keen observer. And since I've actually been working really at the grassroots level, interacting with so many different kinds of stories, I think my writing informs my work and my work informs my writing. So it's like a really great cycle that goes on together.
Thank you. So, talking about cycles, we're just going to jump into this conversation. So, what we're going to be talking about is what happens when harm in childhood is never named, and how does that silence shape violence later in life? So, this entire cycle of what happens in childhood, does it shape later life? How do you think about it? So, Smita ma'am, if you had to describe yourself today in 3 words, what would it be?
Yeah. I think I've come whole today. I would call myself integrated, right? All my experiences have come together. Um, I'm also unapologetic today. And I think I'm still forming. I haven't
Mhm.
become my final form. I'm still becoming, I'm still forming. So, yeah,
Okay.
integrated, unapologetic, and becoming. Those would be my 3 words.
Okay, and would these be the same 3 words you would have described yourself, say, 10, 15 years ago, or even as a child?
Never, never. Oh my God. 10, 15 years ago, I was performing. Okay. I wasn't really living. I was performing. I was in this whole space where I felt I had to prove. It was almost like all the time I was trying to translate my experience into something that others felt comfortable around. They could accept it, hear about it, but not really give the whole experience or the whole story to them, just taking care of their comfort levels. I would I would probably have said 10, 15 years ago that I am a survivor, I'm an artist, and I'm a fighter.
So I
But
think you're more unapologetic now. Is that what you would say?
absolutely right. Absolutely. I mean, in those words, they were very noisy words at that point of time, right? There was a lot of performance in that. It was very, very noisy. And today it's much quieter. I mean, all my life I've had this dissonance with my 6-year-old. So though that my 6-year-old self is still with me, she's more accepted. She's more with me now than I was even 5 years ago.
So you feel more accepted in that sense, where you're able to integrate yourself. Again, words that you've been using.
I would say more accepted. Outside comes doesn't really matter to me now. It's more about me being more accepted by myself. I mean, healing. Healing is a lifetime's work, right?
Yes.
And I think the most important part of the healing to become okay with yourself is to find purposeful meaning. And that purposeful meaning doesn't have to be grandiose. It is not big. It can be just like rain-filled breeze, or it can be that sondi mehek of the earth when the rain first hits the earth, in that first rain. It can be just as simple as that. So becoming whole, becoming integrated, becoming okay with yourself is just that, coming together bit by bit.
And do you think this coming together bit by bit has been a journey, or has your childhood shaped this, or has your environment, like through the years, shaped how you feel about this?
You're going to ask me some very difficult questions today, and I may or may not be able to answer them because I do not think I have excavated myself to such an extent, though I would like to. But most of it has been an unspoken journey, right? So how I'm coming together and integrated together is a silent journey. It's a quiet journey. Some parts of it get spoken, and most of it stays quiet and is kind of resolving itself inside me. So this is something that I've never really spoken about how my family and how what role my family played in shaping me. But I think with my family, I learned how to keep secrets. It was like I was safe if I could keep a secret. It was about if I loved everybody, I would keep quiet. It was more about protecting others than really understanding what the child is really going through. And so my childhood was very beautiful. It was really fantastic. I grew up in this lovely, I mean, my really early years were in the mountains, and then later on it was in the farm. So books and buffaloes, everything came together in my growing up. And I was really an achiever. And now I look back and I understand why I was the head girl, why I was acing in sports, why I was the exact president, why I was an overachiever, and all of that kind of now is falling into place about why I was so hyperventilated. I mean, I didn't have any real relationships. It was only about being good, being capable, um, never letting anybody too close to you. Like I never had, I liked people, people liked me, but I didn't really have any real friends. And you understand because I was guarding this huge secret, right? How could I have intimacy? Because the fear of revealing too much. It was a very difficult period. It was. It's taken me a very, very long time to understand where I stand today. This integrated self has been really a journey. Yes, it has been a journey.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. But I think from with all the work that you've done over the past 20, 30 years, do you think this silence that you had to hold as a child, do you think it's a reality for most people who also face similar situations in their childhood? Do you think this is what they carry?
Absolutely. Um, it's more of a reality than speaking up because you don't get believed and you don't have language. As a child, you don't have words to express what it is that you're experiencing, right? And in the
Yeah.
family, there is no space or nobody who actually also has the language to be able to pick up on your symptoms and make you feel comfortable or give you the language to speak up. And it really, I mean, even as an adult, forget about children. Even as an adult, it took me a very long time to actually articulate the words and say, I was sexually abused as a child. And I have first had to say it to myself. Then then I started writing about it and I putting out theater around it and plays around it. And then I started speaking about it in public spaces. And the more I spoke about it, I realized how tightly shame had gripped me. How tight my body was inside. But every time I spoke about it and shifted the burden of shame from me to the people who deserve it, I somehow just felt myself relaxing more and more and not having this need to perform that I am healed. Instead, actually relax into being who I am, really. Something that I had lost for most part of my life. Yes.
Yeah. So less performative and more you in the moment. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
do you think that is what safety is for you right now?
Um, Safety for me today is my ability to understand that I had trauma, that I will always have trauma, that I will manage my trauma, and that it doesn't define me. Okay, that's today. But earlier, my safety was in my performance. Okay, and that is what happens with most of the people who undergo these kind of violations and child sexual abuse or harm in this way. That's what they have. They become either underachievers or overachievers. Okay, they're not themselves. It's not a natural progression. You know, safety for me at that point of time, it wasn't in my home. So where was it for me? Then it was on the stage for me. I could become other characters. I could say things as other characters which I couldn't say as myself. I found safety in my writing. I could express myself as a third character and not have to do a kind of a confession to this is what actually I'm experiencing, the anger, the upset, the despair, the depression, the anxiety, the whole spectrum I could express either through my writing or through my theater or acting it out on the stage. But I knew that safety is not in talking about it to my family, not in the home. And many times about, what could have been different if somebody in my house had, in my family had, in the people I knew had actually just reached out to me and said, it's okay, it's not your fault. You're not to be blamed. You're not responsible. Okay. And we should have protected you. I think so much would have been different in the quality of life that I've lived. That would be safe.
That's great to hear. And is this the same concept of safety that you envisioned for the Rakshan project when you started it? How did you want to build that out?
Absolutely. For me, there was just one driving purpose that if they know what I know today, they know now, then so many of them would not have to live the life that I've lived. And I don't know if it's the right purpose or the right intention with which to actually go out and do the work, but that has been my driving force, and that's why I can't rest. I can't give up. We have so many odds. We have funding crunches. We have difficulty in making people understand how critical this work is, what a silent pandemic this is. It has been termed as that by the UN. It doesn't let me.
And when we talk about this safety and from all your work, from not just the youth at the Rakshan project, you've also worked on ground with rural women, TS state workers, and a lot of communities within India. Do you think when we talk about safety for all of them, does power come into play somewhere?
So, what is power? How do you understand power? I mean, I'm asking
Um,
you, Sally, how do you understand?
Power would be, say, five people against one, or somebody who holds a little bit more control over you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and and actually, power is learnt within the families, isn't it? Like as a child, I observe my role models, right? I see whose words are important. I observe who's getting served first. I observe whose anger is having the most impact. I understand the behaviors. I understand how people are treating each other. I model power as a child within the family, right? And if in the family itself there is a lot of inequality, there's a lot of unequal power that's happening over there, right? And as a child within that family, if you are being sexually abused, then what are you learning about power? That you are powerless. Your body is available to others who are entitled to your body. Okay. And so
Yeah.
you learn to be powerless. You learn to lose your autonomy. You learn to just accept. There are no boundaries. There's no autonomy at all. Because this has been built to you with not necessarily that people in the house are going around sexually abusing each other. But you have modeled the power and seen in a patriarch setup that generally if men's anger and men's anger is anger and women's anger is hysteria.
Yeah.
Where does it stand?
And when you talk about this loss of autonomy or not having the power to say no as a child, do you think that this sort of early learning also leads into some relationship issues or anything in later adult life? How do you think that proceeds?
Oh my God, yes. See, when as a child I have lived with no autonomy at all. And as a child, I have lived to constantly be in an alarm mode. Okay. Hyper vigilant. Cortisol levels are really high. There's danger lurking everywhere. I don't know who to trust. Then that's like an alarm that never goes off, right? And it never goes off till the time it gets broken. Till that becomes the way of life, right?
Yeah.
When uncomfortable is when danger is equal to discomfort. So the child is in a dangerous position. I am in a dangerous position, but I'm just feeling uncomfortable about it. And and when you grow up, then you accept other violations. You'll accept domestic violence, you'll accept intimate partner violence, you'll accept sexual harassment because you've lost that sense of alarm, right? You're
Yeah.
all the time just thinking this is normal. This is the normal. Violation is the normal. Broken boundary is the normal. Breach of boundary is the normal. And how can you then have any relationship which is meaningful? It all becomes extremely transactional. And that's the very, very sad part of it. Because all your life, then you are just, in hindsight, when you look back, you say, oh my God, if I had only known at that point of time that I'm so broken, then maybe I wouldn't have had such dysfunctional relationships. I wouldn't have accepted so much violation at every juncture of my life till some point when I stopped accepting those and stepped out to fight myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're also trying with the Russian project here, from your idea to how we're running it now, is to break that silence and to take back that autonomy that you kind of lost, and to say, this is not me, and I will not allow it to happen to me. So that's all we've spoken about so far: the loss of autonomy and how we can't say no, how safety doesn't look the same for everybody. But what we started this conversation with was silence. Um,
Hmm.
why do you think this silence still perpetuates as a child or as an adult? Why do you think we're not able to open up in our families or in any community setting?
Because we know that 90% of this happens within the trusted circles and families, right? In the communities that we know about. And communities and families have an image of themselves. It's a myth, but it's a real myth for them. What is that myth of being respectable? Now, if there was a child sexual abuse happening within their family, it will shatter that myth. They will not have the leg to stand on. They will not know how to face themselves. They will not know how to look at each other. The whole system will break down and crumble. So it's like almost like a collective, concerted effort to keep that myth alive, that we are a respectable family where such things do not happen. And so we promote silence. Don't tell anybody. This must be just your imagination. I'm sure nothing like this happened. Keep quiet about it. Okay, even if I accept something like that happened, I'll sort it out for you. But don't tell anybody. Okay? This is so strong because nobody can bear this image of them being respectable family getting broken down. And if child sexual abuse is happening over there, then that will actually hammer it and shatter it. And that is why all these men, the uncles, the cousins, the brothers, the fathers, whoever is, then no, then nobody will ever call them out. Because to call them out will be to accept it, that they're no
Yeah.
longer a respectable family. And so
Yeah.
silence is promoted to such an extent that it defends the child totally. It reduces the child to nothingness. And if a child dares to speak up, then the child is really crushed. The child is made to disappear. That voice cannot reach the social ambit. It cannot reach out. Definitely. We all know that under POXO, it is mandatory reporting. If we suspect, if we know, when think something like this is happening, we need to make sure that the child is secured and it is reported. That's what we're doing in the Rakshan project also, aren't we? I mean,
Yeah.
one skill build, aware, alert youth inside every family to prevent and to call out behaviors and burst this myth of respectability.
Yeah. And the burden of the child to carry that respect and that honor and keep quiet through all of it, that is what we're trying to break, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I think this is also an idea that that you also built into the film that you created. It's called "All I Want for Christmas." And to
Mm,
all our viewers who haven't seen it, I would urge you to go on YouTube and watch it right now.
mm.
So, when you created this film, ma'am, why was it important for you to show that aspect of child sexual abuse? What is the main theme you were trying to show from that?
So let me just talk about the film. What
Yeah.
what is the film really about? It's about this young child, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. You can give attribute any age, but it's an age before the child is able to make reason, right? And that child, the older sister, is just asking the child, that is, why do you think? Why do you think that Chachu loves you so much and that you're a good boy and he'll give you gifts? And he says, because, and then he unzips his trousers. The film ends just on the sister's face. Okay. What happens after that is not shown in the film because that's something that we don't know. That's something which is left to the people to conjecture. Because the child is telling something very innocently, very openly, very simply. It's for the people to believe or not. Children, when they share at that age, there is no dramatic outcries or there is no crying and beating your chest and saying, "Oh my God, I've been violated." They don't have any understanding. It's just an experience that this is happening. But there is no vessel, there is no containing, there is no holding within the family to accept and understand and receive what the child is sharing with them. And that is what we do. The idea is for the film to become a question mark within the families, for the families to ask, what will you do now? Now you know. Are you going to talk to each other? Are you going to call out the uncle? Are you going to listen to the child? Are you going to gaslight the child? Are you just going to shush it all up? Are you going to let the chachu continue with whatever the chachu is doing? What are you going to this family silence, this how do we break this family silence was the objective of making this film.
So it leaves the viewer with a question right at the end. What are you going to do? Right?
What are you going to
Uh,
do? Absolutely.
and that is an answer I'd like from every viewer who's watching right now. Put it down in the comments and let us know what would you do at the end of that film. And finally, to wrap this entire conversation up, Smita ma'am, what is
Mm.
that one? What do you think is the responsibility of an adult, a survivor, or a bystander as an adult to do when they come across a case of CSA or gender-based violence or anything that is going on within the community? What is that one thing that they should definitely be doing?
I can actually think of 100 things. But since you are putting one thing over there, I will say that they need to create a preventive environment before the law has to kick in. What is it that they can do for creating a culture where it is not possible to sexually abuse a child on their watch? That they're alert, then they have the capacity and the language to call people out, that they're not hesitant, that the shame doesn't belong to them or the child, but to the person who's perpetrating the action and the crime. Okay, how do they believe the child? Is it possible for them to believe the child? Then they stop asking the children to just go and hug the relatives or people or guests or strangers, even when the child is saying, I'm not comfortable doing that. Can they teach the children that their body belongs to them, that it is autonomous, that they have a right to say no? Can they teach the children to say no? And can they learn to respect the child's no? I mean, I can go on if you want me to go on, but there's no way this to be done. But most importantly, what they also need to do is to heal their own trauma. Because if they do not process their own trauma, they will not be able to see the trauma that anybody else in the family is going through.
So you heard it. You all of you heard it here first. Heal your trauma. Teach your children to say no and create a preventive environment at home. And now to wrap this entire thing up on a very, very light note, a few rapid fire questions for you, Smita ma'am.
Sure.
What's the comfort food that you always go back to?
So I come from Chhattisgarh, where every afternoon it had to be that yellow dal, arhar ki dal, and chawal and aloo ki sabji. Bas. Period. That's what I want.
Great, that's what I will make tonight then. One word that brings you calm.
Um, Practice, whether it is in writing, whether it is in working, for everything, just practice.
A habit that grounds you even today.
My morning writing, when I actually give words to whatever it is that I'm feeling or experiencing or thinking, reflecting. Yeah.
And one quality you really admire in other people.
Courage to be vulnerable. Not easy. Courage to be yourself.
Being true to yourself from what you've started this entire conversation with. And my final question for the evening would be for the Ruction project, from when you envisioned it to now, when you are the executive director, what is
Hmm.
your vision for gender based violence and how we are preventing it?
I think the vision that I have and I've had for the Rakshan project is if 40 lakh students are learning to become a preventer of harm, a preventer of child sexual abuse every 2 years, then in 1 decade we'll have a social tipping point where child sexual abuse will be a thing of the past.
Great. Thank you. And that is the hope that we will carry this project on. And I hope to have more conversations about this with you and with the larger public around these topics. So thank you so much, Smita ma'am, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody watching. Thank you.